Good evening. This is the Public Art Select Committee meeting for Wednesday, February the 6th. My name is John French, Councillor and Chair of this particular committee. Welcome, and I acknowledge that we are on the Squamish Nation traditional territory, and I'm happy to have Swayze with us tonight, who is going to translate that for me.
So Hafton Squams it's good in my heart, and welcome to our Squamish territory.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the mayor does, when she opens meetings, she does that very well. Patricia Heinzman, our previous mayor, did it even more polished than Karen. I'm still practicing, so one day I'll be able to do the translation myself. So I'd like to adopt the agenda, and the recommendation here is that the committee adopt the February 6, 2019 Public Art Select Committee agenda. Meg moving that, seconded by Catherine. All those in favor? Very good. Next item is the committee minutes, and we'll be approving the Public Art Select Committee minutes from January the 9th. Before I take a motion, has everybody had a chance to peruse that? Any edits or errors, omissions from those minutes? Meg?
The only thing that I was concerned about was right towards the end when we talked about the banners. And I noticed the tagline was that we might include previous banners. That really wasn't my intention, so I don't know if that's important or not, but it was really the specific reference was to the pool, and using an existing display to update that. So it didn't reflect that in the minutes. I don't know if that's important.
I can either update quickly now, or we can wait until staff updates just to speak quickly on that if you want. We'll do staff update.
Is there an actual change to the minutes? If you could just point out where it is.
It's on the page 3,
Yeah.
down at the bottom, banners 2020.
Uh-huh.
So,
John, can you just read the line
So
that's
what-
after the banners?
yep, banners 2020, what we have here is suggestion to start the planning in November 2019 to deliver the design in March 2020. And then the second bullet point is suggestion to incorporate the previous banner designs into the new ones.
So
Devon?
if I may, the line should read something like, the committee directed staff to investigate the option of hanging the new banners in the pool.
Meg,
Or
that
at
captures
least
it?
two of them. Yes, it does.
Got it?
Got it?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Great. Any, yes?
One more thing for the minutes. I'm just curious after my name on the present, if it at this moment should be member at large or Squamish Arts Council. I don't know if that's official yet.
At this point, either or. I think when we talk about vacancies and the direction that if the committee is moving towards adding to the committee, then at which time we can tidy it up and move you from Arts Council to member at large.
Okay.
And add Amy as Arts Council.
Okay. Good. Anything else? Okay, then I'll look for a motion that the December, that the minutes from the January 9th, 2019 Public Art Select Committee meeting be adopted. Moved by Meg, seconded by Peter. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. We don't have any business arising unless anybody would like to jump in with business. No. There are no delegations and no petitions tonight, which takes us to number 5, business and committee vacancies. And it says that I have an update on applications. Here's my update. I personally did not generate any interest since we chatted last month. I did reach out, granted not with a great deal of force and enthusiasm, but I specifically have 3 people in mind that I will be approaching in the next week to ask them directly what their level of interest is. So now let me just pull around. At our last meeting, we talked about how talking to our own networks. Does anybody have anybody that's interested or has expressed some interest in joining the committee? Peter?
I'm hoping a friend of mine, Rachel, might. She hasn't. Did you say you'd spoken to her?
I'll meet her in a couple days.
Okay, so is there anything any of us can do to get an extra arm twist, or it's in the works?
It's in the works.
Great, Meg?
Thinking over this request, the people who I know right at the moment in the arts community tend to be in the performing sector. Tend to be musicians, tend to be other kinds of folks. And I don't know how appropriate that would be on this committee or inappropriate. I don't know how interested they would be on serving on this kind of a committee, which appears to be devoted, or is in the terms of reference, devoted to the visual arts. So I don't know when we re-look at the terms of reference if we want to reconsider the mandate of this committee or not. Not is perfectly okay. But it's just that my contacts and networks aren't amongst visual artists.
Well, the process is anybody that's interested in being on the committee submits an application. So I would say if you've got somebody who's interested,
They're really not, because it's visual arts and they're performing artists. That's their interest.
got it.
Yeah.
Devon?
I just echo your statement.
Yeah, they don't have to be visual artists to qualify for the artists.
Correct. But it obviously helps if their interests drive
In my mind,
their contribution.
if you've got interest in it and you've got some enthusiasm and some excitement around public art, then come and contribute.
I agree. It would just be a member at large.
Yeah. And we have a member at large
Vacancies.
openings. Catherine?
Yeah, for sure. And I was just going to say, in the past, we've had artists who are also engineers, so, and things like that. So if they have a special skill, like a knowledge of setting things up in public or building, that's useful to bring forward, just because they'll have some technical knowledge that I won't have, for example.
Good. So unless anybody has any other thoughts, yeah.
I just thought, I was thinking about it on the way here, we should probably drop off some of these applications to Have Sound Secondary School to get a student rep.
Okay,
So
yes.
I could do that.
Oh, great.
I can go in and do that. I just realized, I don't know, I know we talked about the student representation, but we didn't translate that into
And
going to the school.
I haven't.
I'll do that.
So Natalie Bozart, who is the art teacher that I know of at House Sound Secondary School, I haven't connected with her, but she's definitely somebody I want to talk to about. But
Would you like me to drop off
please go ahead and
applications
do.
to the office?
Sure.
and-
Yeah, wouldn't hurt. Peter,
Was there no reaction request?
say that again.
No response request?
None that I know of.
That's surprising.
Cindy?
Provide an update on that. We reached out through our contacts with Quest, which was this SRC representative for arts, and they said they'd share it, but I'm just making a note to follow up with them.
Okay.
And what about another, one of our counselors? Joyce or
yeah.
Diana?
Yeah, that'd be great. Would you like to have conversations with those,
Yeah.
with Joyce and who?
Joyce Williams or Deanna Lewis?
Janos? Okay.
I
Yeah.
know Joyce is more into the environment, and I would think Deanna would be a better one.
Well, feel free to have a conversation with both of them and invite them to consider it. Meg?
I'm just wondering if Brody would be a good person to contact as well with Squamish K-12. There's a lot of art going on in that community. And if somebody there, or a couple of them there, would be interested. And again, I don't know how doable that is, but I think offering that invitation might be useful too.
This is at Squamish?
That's at Squamish.
So learning expeditions and...
Yeah, they are doing a lot.
They're the ones that came here and did the presentation here to do the monuments.
Well, that's good then. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Well, do you have enough of a relationship to have that conversation?
I made a note to follow.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I just think it's reaching out to them, I think would be useful anyway.
So what I'd like to do on this situation is give this process of us, our network, one more month. Let's come back next month, see where we're at, and have a follow-up discussion on where do we take it from here. If, who knows, maybe we come back here in a month and we're all full up, which would be great. So we can circle back on it and determine as a group whether we continue with some other tactics for getting the word out, or where we need to be with it.
We can, through you, Chair,
Yes.
we'll go through that process and then we can just remove it off the agenda as it can exist as rolling entries.
Until we're up, the numbers were, yeah, okay. Great. Going to move on then to item number 3 here, Truth and Reconciliation, called artists. So, oh wait, no,
No.
sorry, number 2, strategic priorities.
Oh, I thought I had my PowerPoint in the wrong order.
Sorry, Deb.
Can we get some of the?
Yes, you're like way ahead of me.
Just eat it.
So you may or may not be aware that the current council has created a strategic plan from now through till 2022, the end of our 4-year term. And Devon has a slide there that gives you the high-level overview. We've identified a few specific areas of focus for them, to be precise. And is this the only slide? Oh, okay.
No,
Perfect.
yes, so the official community plan, council develops their strategies based on the OCP, and those 4 strategic areas are the planet and the environment, housing affordability and diversity, the economy and local jobs, neighborhood connectivity and public spaces. And given that this is the Public Art Committee, once we drive further down into the actual, the subpoints of the strategic plan areas, public art falls under neighborhood connectivity and public spaces. And that is where I saw, the most relevant information being given that would help direct this committee in terms of their decision making. And by the Public Art Committee supporting council's strategic direction, it provides support to a cohesive plan.
Good. So now, Catherine, this is what I'm passing 2 down because Meg already has one.
I just love paper, John. You know that.
It's easy to write on, right?
Exactly.
Taking notes.
So just on this slide, you'll see neighborhood connectivity and public spaces, and then the subpoints underneath that, you'll see on the right-hand side of the inside of your strategic plan. I also cut and copied out ongoing priority highlights because it speaks specifically to arts and cultural programming, which is connected to public art.
And so that specific bullet point there, arts and culture programming that you see on the screen, which is on page 2 on the bottom left, I want to acknowledge that Eric Anderson, Councillor Anderson, really championed having that line in the strategic plan, because council spent a number of days many hours developing this strategic plan. There was a lot of give and take, push and pull, and we've come up with a plan that I'm proud of, that I think is really going to guide us well for the next 4 years. And when we were getting right to near the end of the process, Eric spoke up and really expressed a concern around not enough attention in the plan to arts and culture programming specifically, which definitely is what we're involved with here at this committee. So I'm thankful to Eric that he had my committee in mind and had my back by making sure that this got mentioned somewhere in our plan. So you'll see the 4 priority areas and then some specific goals and targets that support the 4 key areas that we're focused on over the next 4 years. And I want to highlight that this is a very high level plan. It's 30,000 feet, there's no doubt about it. We all agreed that we didn't want a strategic plan that was a to-do list. We wanted something that we could give to the staff and say, these are our priorities for the next 4 years. This is what we want you to help us deliver to the people of Squamish. And I think we've done a really good job of keeping it high level and making sure that it's not a to-do list, because really in the world of strategic plans, if it reads like a to-do list, you haven't really created it. Your strategic plan is not really all that strategic, and it's not much of a plan. So I think we've really produced something that is in the spirit of the project and the spirit of what these plans are really intended for. So I share this with you so that you've got a clear understanding of where the 7 members of council have placed priorities over the next 4 years. Does anybody have any questions? Or, yeah, Meg?
I just have one comment. I really love the idea of increasing year-round utilization of public spaces, assets, public spaces, parks, that kind of thing. And I really hope that if we look at kiosks and shelters and that kind of stuff, we can look at those not simply as utilitarian to keep the rain and the wind off, but also as potential canvases or ways of artistically integrating the community kind of thing. So this is very exciting to actually see this and see how you're thinking, and I'm sure that we will have lots of conversations about how to integrate art, through all these different areas.
Good. Anybody else? So you can take these home and love them and treasure them and review them.
This is an
as the months go
accountability
by.
document,
It
right?
really is. It really is, yeah. I mean, we have put dates into some of these. And some of the dates are aggressive and some are 2022. So, we've given ourselves 3.5 years to accomplish. But yeah, I agree. There's definitely an amount of accountability that exists in these pages and something for this council to live up to. Catherine?
I was just wondering, not knowing it very well, I guess a huge part of the anticipated growth of the community is in this as well, like considering how that's going to shift all of these things or bring opportunities for art or anything else in the community. So I was just wondering if you had anything to say about that, if that was talked about in terms of our remit as public art. Was there an anticipation that was going to grow exponentially because the population is?
No, not necessarily and not specifically, because our conversations really weren't quite that down in the weeds.
Not so detailed.
Yeah.
Wait till the budget debates.
So, but then having said that, yeah, I'm getting to know the members of council fairly well. We spend a bit of time together. We've all revealed what we're passionate about, what drives us. And I really get a sense that this is a group of people who value art collectively and understand the value that public art brings to a community and the difference that it can make. So it's a group of people who are aligned with the goals of this committee and are keen to see this committee have success. So we definitely have their backing.
That's great.
I like Meg's comment of how we should be integrating the arts in potentially in out of these 4 categories or the 5. So I was wondering through the district, what days are some, okay, I'm trying to say. So we know June 21st is National Indigenous Day, right?
Mhm.
And then we celebrate April, what's
Birthday?
Earth Day. So it would be nice to have a list from January to December. What does the district celebrate? You know what I mean? Not-
like in addition to
Yeah, in
Earth Day
addition to like
and-
what we already know. So it kind of ties in, does it come under the category with, you know, obviously Earth Day is with the planet and the environment, right?
Mhm.
Europeans are
And then how, you know, just kind of get a calendar and help us paint a picture,
Yeah.
see the big picture.
Well, the district does have events listings on the website, so that's a good resource. But Devon, you had a thought?
Yeah, it was just a clarifying question. Are you looking for, would it be helpful to see a list of kind of all the community events happening between now and December? Like, is that,
Yeah, and how does the district celebrate
Yeah.
either of these days that are?
yeah, specifically referring to Aboriginal Day and Earth Day?
I think
No, that was just the 2 examples I said.
Okay.
I want,
Important examples.
yeah.
Yeah, I think if I can try
Yep.
and get it, because I'm
Go ahead, Peter.
passionate about events, is that when you have a strategic plan, these are, you know, we can do this, we can do that, but when it comes to art, that is an event, and if it's a public event, so the 2 you mentioned are public events, public art in a roundabout way. So if the district is putting money into things and it's supporting things, and for example, like, the events were not anything to do with the 4 areas that the strategic plan is going to, it's like, oh, well, why is the events going to? Is that what you're saying? Sort of thing?
Yeah, something.
It's sort of, in other words, the events that the district supports paints a picture of what our community's about, and does it reflect the strategic plan? I think that's where we're going with those. So if all the events were, if we had 0 environmental events on the calendar of events the district is supporting, but one of the strategic components was environment, then it doesn't.
I
Thank you.
sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, you know, there are European towns and cities are quite good at that, you know, bringing the national and international days forward at a local level. I just wanted to recommend them as something to look at.
Devon first, and then Peter.
Yeah, currently the events that the district directly supports is through the BIA. And so those 3 events are Canada Day, the Santa Claus Parade, and the last couple of years it's been Pumpkin Patch in the park, which has been it's basically a pick out your pumpkin with your kids, but it's a fundraiser done in conjunction with Rotary. And so through Canada Day, I know the VIA makes an effort to include Squamish Nation storytelling and things like that, but there's definitely some room for improvement. And I think your comments are, Alice's comments are very well aligned. Yeah, it's a great point.
And yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Actually, it's really good timing, this, because I completely forgot about this. So the BIA has had an increase in funding for the district this year for Canada Day, as I understand. Is that happening?
I don't believe it has.
Okay,
No.
I
believe
stepped out of it.
Yeah.
That's not, okay. So I didn't, whoops.
Preempting.
I don't know if that is
A council decision.
Apologies.
No, there's
That's why hopefully that's the direction. Anyway, the point is that VIA is always wanting to improve the Canada Day, and that's the direction it wants to go. So as I understand, there's a possibility that we'll be looking for committee members for the Canada Days prize to bolster that, and because public art obviously is an important part of any festival, and especially First Nations, so it's like a matter of there could be a call out for, without taking away people from this committee, for more input on Canada Day. So that's the case. Depending how the funding goes, not talking about funding from the district, because we talked about different ways of bringing in funding, so that's why I'm a bit hazy on where that money was going to go. So we were hoping to add a bit more budget to it to make it a bit more of a sort of a bigger event, because Squamish is becoming bigger. That's
Meg?
Is there good communication between what goes on at Totem Hall, the multicultural on Canada Day, and the downtown Canada Day? Because it's one of the things that I have thought that we need somehow to bridge that Mamquam channel. And I don't know the answer to that, but it's a shame that we have.
Devon?
Absolutely. I'm in, you just so happen to also have the event permitter sitting at the table at the district. In conjunction typically with Geraldine Guilfoy, thank you, and Donna Billy, thank you. There's definitely coordination between what time the formal festivities of Canada Day happen, and then, for example, last year there was the ceremonial canoe ride from Mosaic Park out to Totem Hall. So
We're working on it.
There's definitely at the staff level, there's definitely connections there.
I'm thinking of the communications and the publicity of that kind of thing too, I think, is a...
Absolutely. There was also, there was kind of a three-way partnership between Kite Clash, Squamish Nation, and the BIA to provide transportation from those three locations, given that they all took place on the same day. So I would say in terms of community groups working together, there was considered effort being made.
Progress is being made, which is great.
We've strayed a little bit from where our agenda, but Swayze, I hear what you're saying, and as the chair of this committee and the council rep, I think that there's a certain responsibility on my part to make sure that events like the ones that you're thinking of, public art is on the radar in some way or another as the organizers are doing the planning for the events. So I'll take that on as we move forward. Before I move off of the strategic plan, is there any other final thoughts, Anna?
No.
Okay, then let's now move to truth and reconciliation, because Devon had the slides in the correct order.
I am always open to being wrong.
And so there are a few handouts. I think everybody's got them. Okay, so these are dated today, but these documents, I believe, were created some time ago, right?
A year ago.
Yeah. So this is Call to Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh Nation Artists, and I believe that went out.
It did, yes.
But then this other one, part 2 of a 2-part initiative on truth and reconciliation, called Artists, did not go out. So, Devon, you want to set this up for us?
Yeah, absolutely. As a few of you around the table remember, the voice of Squamish Nation elders that we heard really focused on 2 main pieces of information. The first one being how a competition, and I'll use competition for lack of a better word, needs to help the artists advertise and how we can bring more advertising and exposure to the depth and talent of artists that we currently have within the nation. So that represented what was written up and went out for competition 1, specifically called to Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh First Nation artists. The second one, the intent behind it was to open it up and make it almost, I don't think I'm being too broad as to say kind of open to North American artists and focused on, feel free to interject if you think I'm wrong. Yeah, okay. And was really supposed to be more of, what I heard from the committee was we want to remove as many barriers to entry to this competition as possible, and we really wanted the creativity of artists from across, I'll probably say the country, which would have been realistic. Also not recognizing any geographical barriers and things like that. So I think that we hit kind of a impasse. Impasse might be the wrong word, but without having any uptick on the first competition, I think that there was a real desire from this committee to kind of come back to the table and reevaluate how we approach these things, specifically as it comes to the voice of the committee.
Yeah.
And it's great that Swayze is with us tonight, because I think we might look to you for some thoughts and guidance on this. And go ahead, Meg.
I'm just wondering if I could kind of jump in, because I was inspired by Angela saying that she was going to draft a different issue kind of thing, but draft a letter. And I thought, well, maybe I should put a little time into asking Dr. Google about some Squamish Nation artists and trying to find out a little bit more information and even package some information. So I did that, and I've got a presentation there. And so Aisha may be able to help me identify some of the artists that I could not identify, and I know Squamish Nation Education will do that if she can't. But I wondered if people wanted to see that right now as a way of who already has artwork in this community. So who are some of the artists that we've already got here? Mm-hmm. You know, like, where did I find information in terms of the bios for these people? How does Squamish Nation, I didn't know Squamish Nation had a Facebook page, and I've actually seen some call for artists come out on that page, and I went, oh, that's interesting, because that allowed me to say, well, how does our project fit in with the competition? And there's a lot of competition for Squamish, not Squamish Nation specifically, but for Indigenous artists, so how do we fit into that? So I thought maybe we should do just a little bit of homework, like in our own backyard, and why is this important stuff, and maybe people would like to see my little 2 bits. It's not a really polished presentation, but would you like to see it now?
And so just for time management, about
Less
how
than
long?
5 minutes.
Oh,
I'm just going to scream through it. This is not going to be.
Then, Devon, unless you have another thought, let's jump into it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your work.
Because, I mean, that was
Do you want me to drive, or do you want to drive?
I thought maybe I'd drive just because.
Absolutely.
Not at all. But you're going to have to tell me how to turn it on the screen.
It's funny that.
You need Copilot.
Okay, so let's go up.
And then Dev's going to.
She knows the next step.
It takes a village.
It does, doesn't it?
Teamwork.
Just go up one more side.
Is there?
Can you see? I'm dead. Okay, so this is the intersection of the public art inventory piece that we've talked about and the Squamish Nation call for proposal call. So this is one example, and this is out in the estuary. This is a house post. And what I'd like you to do, it's not really easy to see. Can we dim the lights a little bit? Yeah.
Thanks, Kelsey.
I really wanted you to have a look at the carving on that, at the relief on the carving. This is Aaron Nelson Moody who actually did this splash. And you can see this is the celebration after the raising kind of thing, and I can tell you who the people who were there if you want that information. I don't think it's important right at the moment. Other than most of this information came from a personal contact, John Buchanan. Okay, it didn't come from papers, although there is some references there. This is another artist. This is Chief Floyd Joseph. And on the left, you've got Quas. And on the right, what you've got is a section of the pole. And look at the different styles that you've actually got. This is high relief, very different style of carving, very different artist. In the back, you've actually got the house posts, and I do not know, I haven't tracked it down yet, who actually carved those house posts.
Collected.
Did he? Okay. And you can see Holacton's done the glasswork as well at the top. This is Holacton's work as well. I went to the school and I said, what can you tell me about the carving there? And they said, nothing. So then I went to the school board and I said to them, and they said, well, if you give us a list of what you're interested in, then we can actually go and try and track down some information because it exists on their files. But there's no plaque at all. And I was one of the people called to witness that ceremony, and so I'm embarrassed to say that I can't give you a date for it within a few years kind of thing. I can tell you a lot about what happened, and Suizi was there as well. But I wanted also to say, so that's Holacton. Let's go down another one, and this is his work as well. The one on the left is the hydro pole, and Holacton was working with several other people as well, with Dale and a few others. That's actually in the industrial park now. And so there actually is some art already in the business park, industrial park, outside at any rate. And the support for the overpass, of course, was Holacton's work as well. And that was done in conjunction with 2010, the Olympic bid. So that was paid for by the province. These ones I don't know. The one on the right is the Squamish School Welcome. Alice, do
So
you
the one on the right is Floyd Joseph, the one on the left is Harold Baker.
Brilliant. Okay, so I would have guessed Floyd Joseph about that simply because of the style of the head. That's quite like his carving. So that's good to have that confirmed. And Baker, what was his first name? Harold Baker. And you can see the two-headed serpent, down at the bottom as well, but very different styles. And again, the house posts are traditional from this area, the Salish. The totem poles are not. They start about Alert Bay and go north. But as one of the elders said, well, tourisms, they want poles, so we'll build poles and we'll put them up. Not a big deal.
Meg, just the Squamish one.
Yeah.
Well, they're both Squams. The two-headed serpent.
The school?
No.
The other one, yeah.
At the Blind Channel. Is that there today?
Yeah, it is.
It's there right now?
It's there right now.
That's the bottom of Squamish,
Yeah.
our village.
I'm embarrassed to say that I had no idea. 'Cause that's, in the background there's a shed. That's the paddling club?
Our canoe shed.
Oh, that's the canoe shed. Okay. Wow.
What I think is really interesting about this, what interests me, is we've got jurisdictional issues. What is public art, and where is it? Some of these are accessible and some of these are not. And so there's jurisdictional issues in terms of the school district. Can we put that on a map? Is that appropriate or not? Can we put some of these on a map in terms of people can actually go and find them? Or is that not appropriate? So there's conversations that need to happen jurisdictionally. Yeah, I suspect that Squamish School and Howsound Secondary is not in the same kind of category as Cheakamus Crossing is. Because Cheakamus Crossing has kids actually staying overnight, I think they're much more concerned about people coming onto that property without permission. But I could be absolutely wrong in terms of the schools, and we do need to figure that piece out.
Is Cheakamus Crossing the same thing as the Cheakamus Center?
Yeah, do you mean this Checkers at North Vancouver Outdoor School?
North Vancouver Outdoor School.
Okay, Checkers.
Oh, good, because Checkham's Crossing's in Whistler.
Whistler,
I
yeah.
was kind of confused too, but thanks for
Oh,
that
is it?
geographic
Well, what do they call it?
clarification.
Checkham Center.
Checkham
Center, yeah.
What do I know?
Potato.
Yeah.
Potatoes.
Yeah.
We got it figured out.
Yeah. So as I said, and there's probably more that I don't know about as well that'd be cool. But it's again, who are the sources and what are the kind of issues that we're going to have to be talking about with the map and stuff, huh? Yeah.
Catherine,
There's a wonderful welcoming poll on the Squamish Reserve. Do you know who carved that?
Right there,
That's the one?
the one on the left.
That's, oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
That's late
That's
Harold
the one
Baker.
by the, on the ocean?
Yeah.
Overseas? Oh, okay.
I asked permission to go down and take that picture, by the way, just so you know.
okay, good, so,
Okay, so can we just, I
It's from a
wanted
different
as
angle.
well
Yeah.
to run through a little bit more behind the poll.
Yeah, okay.
Because that speaks to issues of cost. I definitely know that Halacton and Splash went to House on Secondary. And I don't think we have paid market value for any of their work. Well, I know we didn't for, I'm assuming we didn't for the one that's in the estuary as well. So I wanted to just run through a little bit of the backstory of the one in the estuary because I'm more familiar with that than I am with the other ones.
Okay.
Are you game just to rattle through it really quickly? These are the artists that I have and where we got the bios from. The Squamish Culture Center website has bios for Halacton, for Splash, for Art Harry, Chief Floyd Joseph, Spirit Restaurant Gallery website. So we can Google search those and get information from some of that. Gives us some information for our map if we're interested in that. These are from the files of John Buchanan because I asked him and he just sent me a whole bunch of stuff. He's an old newspaper man and comes from a newspaper family and has got a whole lot of sources of information which if he leaves town, when he leaves town, I'd be ashamed to lose contact with that, so.
I was wondering, okay,
Yeah.
I'll ask you later.
And this again, this is the whole process. This is carving the pole. This is getting the wood. You know, this is Aaron in his shop. You know, this is the family who actually commissioned that. And you can see Aaron, and on the left you've got from BC Parks, Vicki Haverl. I don't know who it is in the center, but they're talking about this. This is actually when it was at Totem Hall. This is the celebration, and this is your article.
Oh, this is me.
Yeah, it is. We'll see that in a minute. But you can see, these are really important events, these polls, you know, and the minister is there on the right, Penner and blessing the poll, and there's a whole cast of characters. There's your byline.
I didn't write that headline.
Fair enough. And this is the blanketing ceremony. This is recognizing some of the many people who contributed to the estuary management, all that kind of thing. Chief Alana Andrews, you can see her sitting down there. Because these polls are the memory of the community, there's a lot of ceremony that goes on with respect to that. It's not just gratitude, it's also so it sticks in our head and we remember. We don't see that when we just see a carving. Yeah. And so somehow I think we need to capture some of that, some of the importance of that too. Okay, next. This again, we don't see. This is John Buchanan in his backyard welding up the support for it. You know, this is all cost. This is actually moving that out to the estuary, and on the right you can see the pit that they've dug, and there's Katie Chambers from BC Parts and Mary Mitchell. So these are some of the folks that were involved in that process of getting the house post out into the estuary. You can, another celebration, and on the extreme right is Deanna Lewis, and she is currently a sitting councillor for Squamish Nation. Again, all the protocol and all the process, it sticks in your mind. It's really important stuff. And again, these are the guys who are going to be putting it up, and I love the photograph on the right where you can see somebody holding John, don't fall off, because there's a lot of humor involved in these ceremonies as well, because they're very active, and oh, we didn't think about that, we've got to retrofit this, that, and the other. And they're wonderful, wonderful experiences. And again, here's just some of the coverage from the different news sources, and how do we find information behind some of the art pieces that we're going to do. And I think I don't know what kind of depth we're looking at in terms of the map, in terms of how much can we get an individual to actually do some of these backstories, or are we actually looking more at getting a framework so we have the gaps and we know what we need to fill in for that. I'm thinking the inventory. Again, so the inventory, the jurisdictional issues, information sources, and I really do think personal networks are going to be really important to actually get some of the background stories and information for a lot of this. And then Truth and Reconciliation, as I say, the Squamish Nation has the Facebook page, and you can certainly go and have a look at that and find out a little bit more about what's going on with Squamish Nation. The Truth and Reconciliation has a news feed. I particularly like this. Once a week it comes out and they gather information from all across the country, and in fact around the world. There was one interesting article on Queensland in Australia where they were looking at the Aborigines starting to work with some of the forestry people so that they use burning as a tool for management, because we've got real problems climate change wise. So if you're interested in that kind of thing and want to find some more information, you know, in the light of Truth and Reconciliation, then this is another source. And that's what I'm done.
Okay, great. Thank you. Great info.
Did John give you that article, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He collects
Oh, I
everything.
know,
He's
I know
got
he does.
files and files.
He's a clipper, that guy.
Yes, well done, by the way. Other than the label, I agree. The title was unfortunate.
Yeah, but I'll tell you more about Globe and Mail policies on language another time.
So one of the things that I'm looking for out of tonight's meeting, Devon, let me know if this aligns with your thoughts, is to have a motion that we take to council that gets us moving back on having action with Truth and Reconciliation, the call to artists, whatever that looks like. Meg.
Can I ask firstly, Suetia, are we missing the mark? What's the best way of reaching out to support? Because the elders said that if there's anything that we can do that supports, you know, the artists in the community, please, that would be welcome. Do you have any ideas about how to reach out?
Well, I think you already did protocol when you guys went to go visit the elders last January.
Right.
I know.
And I think because now we use cyberspace smoke signals,
Yeah.
like Facebook and Twitter and whatever, probably be a good way to reach out that way. Use their latest technology to get out. I think the number one would be Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the conversations that we had at our last meeting, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Peter, if you'll humor me for a second, you're up next. We thought out loud about, because we've already done a public call, maybe be more direct and identify a number of artists that we'd like to approach and have direct conversations. Can you just give us thoughts on that approach?
I think that'll work. I think that's even better.
Okay.
Yeah. Because knowing that it has been out and about already. And I know a lot of artists are busy, right? And it's a matter of, good example of the Giacomus Meg was talking about. My brother Clarke had 2 commissions at the same time, and he gave one to his son, not knowing that his son was making bigger. He got the bigger contract than I did. And Rick didn't know at the time, but he didn't care because he knows, you know, he's sharing the wealth with his son.
Yeah, he probably asked for a bigger Christmas present.
Peter.
I wanted to ask you a question and apologies because I'm new to this board, so this could be done already, and I'm asking questions are redundant, and I don't want to insult you. But I'm going to start with a positive note.
Fire away, yeah.
My first one is actually, I mentioned that we had Fractured Lands as a film screening last week, and I was lucky enough to interview Caleb Penn, and I wish you'd all been there. I really wish we'd recorded it. I had to stop the recording because we got into some pretty good stuff, and it was really amazing to listen to him. But he actually mentioned very briefly, and I never followed up with him, when I mentioned about public art, in a private meeting with him about us talking about public art, he said, "Oh, I would like to talk to you." So, I don't know what Caleb had to say, but that might be something which I'll follow up with, and it'd be great to have your input. But my question is, sorry, I'm terrible at names. When I had somebody else that had said their name, and I can't remember. Soleil?
Alice.
Soleil.
Or you can call me Alice.
Great, thank you, that's going to happen. I'm
If you
British,
can't say
so it's like-
Suecia.
When you read these documents, like, which one are we talking about the same really, either one,
Yeah.
when you read it, what do you think? As in, we were asked to, like, you know, have we more artists, and should we do this, should we do that? Like, but my question is always, when you start at the beginning, is this actually written in the right way and the right thing to do? So there's no point asking you, we should get more artists and get more people, and we should do this and use Facebook and da-da, when if you looked at it and went, when I read it, that's not really going to attract me to do anything. And when I read this, when I watch the slides, and I thank you very much, I thought they were great. After my conversation with Caleb, especially as a white English person sitting around this table, I go, that's a lot about what we should do, but I don't think that's the question. It's like, actually, when I read this, it's really hard for me to read it and write. I couldn't write this because I'm coming from my eyes and my heart. So it's like, I would like somebody like yourself to write it, because then it goes in the right language and the right voice. So what do you think of how this is written?
Well, I think knowing that we're doing the protocol here at this committee, but at the same time, we did, proper protocol when we went to the elders. And then seeing that the call of artists did go out, and we got no response from,
Yeah, basically.
One. You mean when it went out last year? We had one, but it was connected with the Checkmas Center, and so it wasn't public land, so we couldn't really proceed with it. I think that's how the discussion went. So the idea was to build something that was going to be located on the Checkmas Center, and the issue is public access. So that was kind of where it kind of stopped there.
so more or less like personal.
Yeah, because
That
that's like
would
saying,
be-
it's like if I do a submission for a business project and I want someone to bid for it, I've got to use the right language to say this is what it is, and they've got to go, oh my god, that sounds amazing, I really want to bid for this. So no matter what, if we use Facebook, reach out directly to artists, if when we send the document they go, that's not what I want to do, then it's going to help. So that's, again, I don't want to question the language or what I've written and whatever work we've done before, and I just wanted you to your gut feeling when you read it, go, yeah, but why aren't we getting artists? If you yourself say, yeah, I don't understand why we're getting artists, then we're still in the right direction. And it's like,
I've got Catherine and then Anna, and then you, Meg.
Basically, one of the things I was interested in hearing from Suecia about was, that I was writing down the artist's names. So it takes an artist of a certain caliber to be able to build a monument, a piece of art. And so one of the things I always wondered was how big of the pool of talent did we have in terms of the Squamish Nation to draw upon and to invite. So that's one thing. And I think Meg just did a lot in an immediate sense to answer that. So it's not a huge, pool. If you were going through Greater Vancouver, it would be much bigger, but that's not what we're trying to do here. And then the second one was I wanted to ask her opinion on whether or not these artists say would they collaborate. If we were going to do an invitational. Would Will Octon work with Aaron? I've interviewed both of them, and they're both tremendous guys. And so I just and anyone else, Chief Floyd, I don't know him, but
So what happens at the table stays at the table. Personally, I have no interest in Chief Floyd Joseph because he's not really a good role model in our community.
Right.
I would just remind the committee that this is a public meeting and records are kept.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So if you can keep it high level, that's what he's doing. Your carry on, just keep that in mind.
But I think if we can actually put together a list, you know, of potential people, perhaps what we could do then is actually get feedback on that list. And certainly the Squamish Lillooet Culture Center does have bios for a whole raft of artists, you know, where we might want to pick a little bit from there. I don't know. Because I'm pretty sure that I don't know all the artists in Squamish Nation.
And there also might be artists who are just one step below that in terms of being able to take on monumental work. They're like, you know, they might be in their late 20s or 30s and they're just ready to step up. And so those sort of collaborations, and we were also always talking about working with the youth anyway, right? That was very important to the elders. So it takes a hands-on look at this to make it work. I mean, it's totally workable, but it means being deliberate and setting the deadlines and getting them done.
Yeah, because the artists I have on my paper is Rick, Aaron, Art, and James. And they work well together, and they have working with the youth in the schools, in the public schools.
James's last name?
James Harry.
James Harry and Art Harry.
James Harry, Art Harry, Aaron Nelson, and Rick Harry.
Okay, thanks.
Anna?
Just back to, I think what Peter, you mentioned, I think was a good point, is the format of the message. I wonder if Facebook is a good way to get the communication out there. Maybe we should be doing a video whenever we have a call to artists, a video of somebody talking about it, or some way of presenting it in video format with the link on where to go to get more information. Every time we have a call out, we can make it fun and do an interesting video.
Devon?
If I may make a recommendation, Swayzia has provided us with a very short list of artists, which is fantastic, and I think further than maybe we've gotten in a while. If I could action the committee to investigate other Squamish Nation artists that may be applicable, and then we can come back, or maybe over email, we could talk about who to, I think what it's going to take is one-on-one conversations with these artists. I think that it's, if I may be so bold as suggest that a lot of advancements with truth and reconciliation come from one-on-one communication and building those relationships, and I think that this is going to be an extension of that, and I think that the way that the committee is going to succeed is to commit to building those relationships.
Meg?
I'm just wondering if it's worthwhile for me or somebody to go through Squamish Nation education as well. They might also have some information to share. And I think, with due respect to the chair, I would like to spend a little bit of time so that we actually have some time rather than worrying about getting it out and getting it done, because I think building the knowledge and the relationships is a key piece. And I certainly know that Halacton and Aaron, because they went to high school here, have very strong community ties. And I know Aaron really cared very deeply personally about the estuary. So that's why he allowed himself to be persuaded to let that jump the queue. It wasn't about money for him. Well, it might have been money as well. But it's just, so truth and reconciliation, what does that actually mean? How do we make that so that it's important to form that partnership, to do that? It's not just about creating an art piece. It's about celebrating, building relationships. I don't know how we do that, but I think it's worth taking some time to really explore what does that mean.
Catherine?
Just as a possible answer for me, if we get to a point where we decide upon a group of 2 artists, 6 artists, whatever we decide with that, then the next step really is to have a discussion with either the entire this entire group and the artists and the community, whether it's the elders or counselors or anyone else, and we just sit and we have a conversation, and youth, right? And we have a conversation and say, okay, what does this look like? And it's really just to offer creative juices. The artists can go off on their own, right, and think up all sorts of ideas about what truth and reconciliation mean to them. I mean, well, Upton's already done that with his poll at the Checkmas Center that went up a couple years ago. And I think if the artists were willing to participate, it would be a really, and it's not a note-taking exercise. It's more like a creative. That would be an opportunity for connection. And if we're talking about youth from the Squamish Nation community, we also bring in youth from the non-Squamish Nation community.
Because at House Island, they have the Aboriginal leadership and they have leadership.
I just think that that's there's an opportunity there. We have it at the Adventure Center. We have it at one of the schools, or we do something like that. Mm-hmm. And maybe then the artists can be fired up with all of these diverse opinions coming together.
Okay, so I hear it all, and Meg, in particular, I hear your thought on developing the relationship and let's not rush. And let me remind you that this has already been a year in the making.
Oh, it felt.
And
I was very happy about that.
we've already taken a lot of time to get to where we are right now, which is with nothing produced.
And really, it took months for the.
Very little produced.
I just wanted to add, but last winter, spring, we did the call out. Things came in, it didn't work out. We didn't have enough. We didn't have any options, as many. And then it was summer break, right? And that's what happened. And then we came back, and it was the election. So it was not a slightly unusual situation, but it just went. So that's why I got all fluffy about it the other month when I started talking about it and saying, we've got to do this.
And I'm with you. A lot of time has passed. Devon and then Swayze.
I just will also provide the context that the committee had hoped to receive some grant funding.
Additional funding.
To prop up the 2 competitions, to make them quite robust in terms of fair market value, and that didn't transpire. So I think that also contributes to why the second competition never went out. So just to provide that context to meeting members.
Swayze?
So Meg reminded me when she did that little presentation of, yes, we do the unveiling, and usually at the unveiling, our protocol, and we blanket people. So the ceremony part, I should say. So I was just wondering if we're gonna take a little bit out of that budget, what we have, and just towards like the very end of the actual unveiling. That's when we invite people, have a little, not a big feast, but little snacks or whatever, just to show how it really was, how it really is. It is still going on. It's not like it's like, yes, we did it back in the day, but it's still happening today. We are still doing it in our communities.
That's certainly my vision. Devon?
Thank you for that. I will. I always hold back a little bit of funds to take care of marketing and things like that, but I have not. I hadn't considered that, so I will work that into the budget.
Okay. Sydney?
Just to touch on the notion of grants, building off of just what Devon just said, and what Meg just said about time and taking time to do things. The one grant that we did secure, the Arts Council was able to secure for this project, was the grant for the youth component. So we have, it's small, it's only $3,500, but it's $3,500 to add to this project to support the artists in mentoring youth through the creation of each piece of art. However, we applied for that in 2018 with the anticipation that it was going to be spent in our 2018 program. Luckily, we called the BC Arts Council, who's the funder, and they said, no problem, you have to the end of 2019. So that's our new extended deadline for this. So I just wanted to put that on the table and keep it in mind. If it doesn't get used, it doesn't get used, and it goes back to the BC Arts Council, but that is an accessible fund for this, intended for this project. But if we don't have, let's say, a financial plan for it by the end of 2019, then it's likely going to go back to the province.
Okay.
And then on the second note, there is another grant that is open right now for the province called the Community Resilience Program. And I think that we would have a pretty good shot at receiving funding for this component. It's up to $15,000. But with that being in mind, once you start getting to the realm of grants, you've got usually about a year, maybe a little bit longer in terms of timeline to spend that money. So I can volunteer to write that grant, but it's,
Is it an open deadline?
no, February 15th.
Oh, wow.
So next
okay.
week.
We always hear these ones about a week before.
Yeah, so I can volunteer to write it, but at the same time, just if we were to receive it, we would have to spend that money on what we wrote the grant for.
Am I hearing that you are taking that on? You're going to?
She's great though.
Okay, we would love, I think I speak on the whole group in saying we would love for you to do that.
I would say, yes, I will volunteer to do that if the committee feels that 1 year from when we would receive the awards, I'm just going to guess that would look like 1 year from April. So by April 2020, we've had a plan to spend up to $15,000 on this project.
Well, I see this as our number one project, our number one priority, the thing that we should be dedicating most of our energy to. I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding, so I think there's consensus on that. And I'll come to you next, Meg. I don't want for us to get all caught up in money on this, because I think Devon is going to show us in black and white in a few minutes when we get a little deeper into the agenda. We don't have a money shortage at this committee. Great if we get grants, additional funding. That's amazing. That means we can do an even bigger, better, faster, whatever it is that we ultimately land with. But my feeling about our budget situation is that we don't really have to have a money conversation around this, because there is enough money available to this committee to achieve what we're looking to achieve. Meg?
Just, I wanted to pick up on something that Catherine said. Because Halacton has got a 2-year waiting list. I mean, he's booked up for the next 2 years. It's not going to meet our timelines, right? It's just not. So is there a second tier or level of artists who, in fact, we might be able to appeal to, that we might be able to advance this more quickly?
I'm going to circle back to that.
And the other
Yep.
point that I was picking up on, the youth group at the school, is it worthwhile talking to them and saying, this is what we're trying to put together? Do you have contacts yourself, the Aboriginal leadership group? Can they talk it up amongst their peers in their community? Would that be of use to us?
My answer is yes.
Well, I just don't know if that's something that...
Swayze, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, in other words, we're taking a couple steps backwards, right?
Well, we're talking to young people and saying, look, we're trying to do a truth and reconciliation project here. You know, we'd like to get you guys involved in it.
Yeah.
What are your networks is really what I'm thinking.
We certainly didn't have that conversation with youth last year.
Devon, you had your hand up? Do you still have a
No.
thought? Oh, okay. I'm conscious of time. I want to get us moving. And I wanted to make sure we come out of this conversation with a clear plan taking us through to the next meeting. Like, Devon.
May I recommend that the committee spend a little bit of time researching Squamish Nation artists and providing me with their short list, and say 2 to 4, and that then we can I can disseminate that information and put it in in a digestible way that we can have a productive dialogue in terms of if those artists we think will meet our needs, and then we can go out and have conversations from there.
So we each come away from this meeting with a commitment to do a little homework all on our own, through our networks, the internet, whatever, and come up with up to 4 names, send them to you.
Yeah.
You'll compile it all and then report back to us on what our list looks like. And so I might suggest, let's take Meg's thought here of look for up-and-comers. Don't restrict yourself to who's got a big name, who's young, and who's got raw talent. That kind of, Catherine.
And also, are there non-traditional artists? Are there artists using other medium, like stone sculpture or?
Yeah, no, let's not put
Because there
any-
are many dynamic, modern.
Let's keep the
Just
parameters fairly broad.
We need the ordained, but I don't know how many of those people are from the Squamish Nation, per se. Anyway, yeah.
Okay, so that's our individual action item on this. The Truth and Reconciliation is, let's compile.
Is my homework done?
Well, no, keep digging it.
I'll keep digging, he says.
That's what happens when you're top of the class.
But
Find a young up-and-comer to add to your list.
I will say that I have some capacity, and I will make sure that those get inputted into the GIS as we start to build out more of a site.
I'm going to the ordained tomorrow for something else, so I'll see what I'll ask. I'll make that part of my mission to see if they've got any lists there of people that
Great.
they would recommend.
I just really want to get down to second-tier artists, because those are people that I think we really want to encourage. And, yeah,
Meg, they're called emerging.
emerging, sorry, oops,
Yeah.
sorry. Emerging artists.
First tier emerging, if you want to get
Perfect.
really complimentary. Okay, unless there are any final thoughts on Truth and Reconciliation, I want to move on.
We will talk about this another day.
Absolutely. It'll be,
Yes.
Yeah, and we're in process to
No, it's
make it
great.
happen.
I'm so relieved. It's great.
It hasn't fallen off the wagon.
Good.
Now, so the next item, number 4, there's actually an inaccuracy on your agenda. It was Angela who was going to do this presentation for us, and unfortunately she wasn't able to join us tonight. So we'll just move this item to next month and have Anna present, Angela present that for us. Which just will take us to number 5, the staff update. Devon, I'll pass it over to you.
thank you. So I come to the committee today. I have had budget discussions. Last meeting, the committee asked me to go away and to figure out the amount of money in the reserve from the inception of the committee to date. That was the question. Finance needs a bit more time. The question has been asked. They have been exceedingly busy with budget and with the TTP project in terms of changing systems, and we ask for just a touch more grace in terms of figuring out that number. The money has not gone anywhere. We just need the capacity to come down and go away. So I'm not seeing anyone
Freaking out.
with steam coming into their ears just yet.
And so just in line with that, Jackie posed a question, was money for 2018 public art budget flowed into 2019? I think that question the answer for that will be produced.
So
out
that
of your-
question was answered last meeting, and the answer was correct. Yes, it was carried forwarded.
Okay, good.
Forward. Did. So obviously in 2019, you have spent and no donors. So the number missing from this slide in terms of the reserve is the number of funds from 2015 to 2017. 2018. Nope, 17. Because last year was 2018, there's the carry forward from 2018, and we're in 2019.
So there's more to come.
Correct.
Okay.
That's my understanding right now.
Okay.
You'll recall I said we'd circle back to, but you can see, this committee has access to some pretty significant amounts of money.
So moving on to the Stan Clarke Park Mosaic, I'm in touch with the mosaicist, and planning is looking at ways right now, and they've requested 1 more month to come back to the committee to show an idea of how to use the repurposed mosaics into the park. So that will be scheduled for May, June right now.
Okay. Like the actual project, May, June?
Yes, correct.
And am I correct in saying with an eye to have Elaine Naseby present to us next
in
month?
March. Yeah, correct.
And she's also connected to something else that I'm in communication with her on.
Would it be the Oceanfront Park?
No.
Okay.
Anyway, so I think we're gonna maybe have Elaine do double duty for us next month and talk about 2 things.
Okay.
I should have copied you in on the email messages between me and Elaine, so I'll forward this stuff, so you're in the loop on it.
Okay.
Catherine.
Just wanted to say, just totally coincidentally today on Facebook, I saw about a 5-minute video on an Italian lifting of a Roman pavement, mosaic pavement, and I'd be happy to send it to you all just to show you, what they have to do. And I was looking at it going, well, that's the entire community budget. So I thought you might be interested, so I can, I'll put that out, I'll cross that over to you guys. You can do what you like with it.
Okay, excellent.
The status of the spring summer coordinator is in the works. I'll be proceeding with that, and I will let the committee know when a successful candidate has been hired. And then I neglected to, I have one other addition to staff updates. It's the arts and culture strategy. In the 2019 work plan, it is within my department's work plan to undertake an arts and culture strategy. And so I just see that as being of interest to this committee in terms of, a portion of, maybe it's 1 or 2 of the committee members participating in workshops on behalf of the rest of the committee, as arts and culture is robust in our community, and there's lots of interest groups and individuals who can contribute to this strategy.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And that concludes my update.
And item 6, council, status of recommendations to council. I don't have any updates for you on that. And there are no referrals from council. We didn't get any correspondence for number 7. And it's now time for roundtable discussion. I'll come to you in just a second.
Oh,
Peter,
that's fine. I just wanted to-
I'm wondering, at this point, you communicated about communications to
Okay,
Devon
fine.
and myself. I wonder could you just share the thoughts that you had in that email? Because I love where you're going and where you're thinking, and I think we could really do something with it all.
So this has come up in a couple of committees I've been on that you just said to us, oh, we've got a Facebook video, I'd love to share it with you. And then I might want to share something with you. Then Devon has to send out these application forms, and then somebody's away from a committee meeting. It's like, what happened next week? We get these updates, and I personally have to go through a lot of emails, which I'm sure you all do. And then if I have to find something to find the email, it's actually really hard. Then I'll have to email Devon and go, hey, can you send me that thing? Whereas I use Google Drive, where everything sits in one place, and I know that that is my folder for thingy, and you can bring up that folder if you like. And so I can put in there all meeting notes, I can put in ideas, I can put projects, I can put cat videos in, whatever I want. And then you can say, hey, I'm going to upload the video I saw to this space. Look at it at your leisure. Then I'm sitting at home at 7 p.m. like, oh yeah, that's that video, I want to go and watch. I don't have to go on my email. So for me, it was a repository of places that you can do it. So your presentation you did this evening, you put it into that place. You'd have to email it to everybody, we all know about it. It goes to minutes, and it's like, and the updates are there. So when Jackie's been away, if she starts, if somebody asks, it's like, just go online, or she would have even watched it before she comes in. So you'd have to do that extra work. So that's my point, is just trying to create a place that everybody can find that information without having to go and go. And my proposal would either a thing, or actually redo the landing page for public art that has a bit more defined, like welcome to public art. So as soon as you look at it, when I looked at it, I was like, this looks like with due respect, a district page which gives a bunch of information that's relevant if I'm an artist. So I want to land there and go, I'm coming to public art, so I land there and go, oh yeah, this is what it's about, and that's it. And then it's just linking. That's a UI, UX discussion with the tech department.
Devon?
So what I did with the email is I fired it off to our IT department to see what, there is going to be a level of bureaucracy here in terms of my answer. Just because of public information and access and things like that. So I will work with them on the best solution. Like, it's not Dropbox and it's not Google, but there's a Canadian site that's the same, that does the same, we'll figure it out. And then I'll drop a whole bunch of just information in there that you guys can then start to populate yourself.
My one word of caution though, which was the final question at the end, is that I would come up with a technical solution, an idea. It sounds all very nice and great, but the last thing you ever want to do is actually add extra work to it. So I would only suggest it even goes as far as getting the IT department to look into it, and we go down that road and everybody goes, oh yeah, that's really great and it's really easy and that makes sense. Or because I do not want to be the person who suggests something and then 3 months later like, oh God, why are we doing this?
No, it's just a matter of a government is held.
Oh no, I know that part. No, I completely understand that.
Okay.
I'm not talking about the completely. What I mean is just a discussion more like, well, not discussion, but committee discussion on whether it's even a thing that's a good idea.
No, totally. And I completely agree. We need a really nice webpage. We need to showcase public art better in public spaces, and
so the BIA has their own website, which is Squamish. I should know it. So that was a thing I discussed a while ago. So if we could go another place,
Meg?
Well, I was just thinking then if there are other committees of council that want the same thing, then what are we actually looking at in terms of a staff, to do that? And how much of it is our personal videos that it's really fun to share, and how much it is committee business? So there's some interesting questions.
So it's really easy, very easy. Right now, I have a Google Drive which all of you can share, and we can all do it right now. But that's for us, like as in individuals, for people who are like a share. So we're individuals within that group. What Devon is talking about is what your questions are, which is very much, excuse me to interrupt, but like that's more of a political, geopolitical, technical thing. So you have 2 streams. And right now, like I suggested the BIA, because I was like, oh, where's our budgets with the finances, and then you have to email and stuff like that. So we personally could do that right now without any questions, any technical bureaucracy, I believe. No? I knew I should not be talking this evening. I'm being
no, and I'm acutely aware.
Sorry, what I meant to say is between, as a person, I could share I could share my Google Drive, I'm understanding.
I've used it for work too.
Yeah, I'm sure that our corporate officer might have something to say about
Yeah.
public documents.
Oh, so-
Yeah, it's the Hillary Clinton thing.
Sorry, I'm trying to,
No,
let
I
me
know.
backtrack. What I mean is that if I walk out to, I mean, I just want to share a document with a person and there's like a piece of art, I've already shared it and I'm happy to share my
Totally.
research. That's nothing to do with the committee, so it's nothing to do with the documents. This would not go on there.
Yeah.
I'm saying just my stuff that I research, I'm happy to share.
This
it.
is why I try not to answer these questions in so much detail. I just try to say, we'll figure it out and I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I will now be quiet.
Because there's drift in terms of those things too. It's really easy, so I'll just pop this in here and then we're in
Absolutely, yeah.
caca
And
because of, yeah.
Yeah.
But I
And
agree
the-
with you, simplifying the email stream
Sure,
is,
yeah.
for all of us is.
I would also say that you, as the Public Art Committee, are in a unique position where you guys are the fun committee. You, like, the other one is Finance and Audit, ADP.
Say what I just said,
What else is there, Terry?
Smoke Bluffs.
Smoke Bluffs. Okay, we're getting a little fun there.
We're still
There's
funner
that
than
food
Smoke
net.
We're
Bluffs.
still way more fun than Smoke Bluffs. So to have a website that, showcases the fun around
Sexy
Squamish,
fun group.
right?
Marketing, right, we need more members.
So in the spirit of Peter's email and this discussion, you'll come back with us with something,
Yeah, you'll see
a
some
part
emails.
2 of this conversation?
Yes.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And thanks for bringing it up, Peter, it's,
So, so glad I did that.
yeah. Catherine, you had something, right?
Just in terms of roundtable, you may have seen this being mentioned on Facebook, but I don't know exactly when it was, but underneath the floorboards of a property in Brackendale was uncovered a significant Squamish Nation art treasure, which is a very old Squamish Nation woven blanket made out of mountain goat hair. Because I wrote about this a lot, the Squamish Nation has been trying to resurrect their craft in weaving, because it must have been put under there when potlatches and other festivals and celebrations were banned, right, for like 70 or 80 years in Canada. So somebody decided to hide this piece because they're so rare. Now, as I understand it, it's at the Squamish Cultural Center on display. Do you know? Okay, sorry, I posted it. If anybody wants to find out more, I can find out exactly where it's at. Find me on Facebook, I'm always there. And I haven't seen it in person yet, and I think some of the artists from the nation have gone and checked it out, because of it has immense value to the future of weaving as an art form in the community. And apparently it's just amazing. So
There's a news article?
Yes,
yes,
Facebook was on Facebook.
I think one of the papers wrote something. The chief or Peak wrote something, maybe. And but I
See
can
what you
find
miss
it.
when you're not on
Or
Facebook.
it might be
you
the
guys.
SL or the SLCC might have posted something about it. But I'll try and find that, and I'll add that to my video, so it'll be like the eclectic art email. So, but I just wanted to recommend that if you get the chance to see it, I think it probably is something some of us at least should try and check out.
Swayze?
And mine's just more or less another comment again, just speaking from my heart again. I just want to thank each and every one of you for being part of or working on the truth and reconciliation, because it's not only yesterday and it's not today, but it's actually for tomorrow. And so these are for the children that are unyet born, and they're going to witness this when they become a parent, and they're going to say, wow, it's part of history. And I really admire each and every one of you at this table here today, and I just want to thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Susie.
Great. Anybody else?
The only thing I wanted to say is that we actually did go and talk to the young people up at Squamish. And we had how many people were actually there? 8. Yeah, 8 kids kind of thing. And it's interesting, when they were here and presenting to this committee, you could see, I mean, it was a great experience for them, but you could see the nervousness and the kind
Yeah.
of, and when we were only two in their space, you know, where the dynamics was somewhat different. So I do think it's really useful to explore other people's reality, you know, not just, you know, the formal kind of thing. They were quite excited, whether it works out in terms of their timing or not, to come to council and ask, you know, formally invite you to the ceremony for their dedication. So they were going kind of like, We did talk about, are they going to name the pieces and what might be on the labels? And the other suggestion that I made was that they might want to do 2 or 3 maps of possible locations, so that then we could send it to staff and they could have a look at pros and cons with some of that, because the more I think about it, the more I think they need to be prepared for, well, this is your first choice, which is great. If that doesn't work out, what's your second plan B and what's your plan C kind of thing. So not micromanaging, okay, not interested in doing that, but it was really cool actually to talk to them at the school, you know, so yeah. It was good.
On their turf, yeah.
On their turf, absolutely, yeah.
Good, Cindy?
I want to add one more piece to that, is that we came away from the meeting, and then Meg and I were chatting away in the parking lot, and the teacher came out, and we actually addressed one more thing, which was the public relations aspect around a piece of art. And this comes from, in general, seeing public reaction to public art. And it can be great or not so great sometimes, depending on how people feel about it. And there is a thought based on the content and the aspirations and what the student artists are trying to say with this art, that it could be, in some people's eyes in the public realm, a little jarring to see. Possibilities. So we said that to the teacher, and he's like, the students are ready for it.
Bring it on.
Take this on. So I guess what I want to say to this committee is that just for us to also potentially be ready for it as someone that supports this project. And it's just a thought. Not saying that this will happen, but it's always a possibility when you talk about art.
If we're not causing people to think through our art, then we're not doing our job. Like, I think about the blue trees, you know, which it was very controversial in Squamish. I wasn't a big fan of the blue trees, but I love the dialogue it created. And that's one of the things that we want to have happen with art, is to talk to our neighbors and have spirited discussion and debate. Hopefully not fistfights.
But I think it's important not only for this group, but also for council to be prepared for the potential for blowback.
I'm ready.
Perfect. And I'm sure you are. It's just kind of forewarned is forewarned.
Good. Anybody else? Then I will entertain a motion
Sorry,
to...
Chair. Peter, did you have something else for roundtable?
Maybe. Sure, why not? I wasn't going to say no, but actually 2 things came out in just the last 2 minutes and this at the beginning, which I thought maybe actually I will. And it was like,
So close.
at first, it's like, oh, so close we're going to go. It was in that, the strategic plan, by the way, I thought it was amazing. I think it's really good that we have that vision. So it said connect citizens through facilities, programs and gateway spaces to create community. And like the reason I wasn't saying it because I thought, oh, well, maybe this isn't public art, and it's not something blabbering. We're looking at taking another event space actually, which actually could be another place for art to be displayed. So that's a bonus, which I suddenly realised. The idea and concept behind it is Squamish has always wanted a cinema. And working with this other space is we're looking at doing virtual cinema, which in other words, that would be screen number 1 over there, we'll do screen number 2, and there might be opportunities for either the church or other places to use their facilities. So to create that gathering space. And then the other thing that just came up is, I mentioned Fractured Land a minute ago, and it just got me thinking, when it finished, I was like, oh my God, I really want loads more people to see this film. There's lots, probably other artistic films out there. And the Fractured Land, much like any other film, has licensing fees associated with it. And so, as a venue, I'd be willing to donate some space if we found budget to pay for the license fees. Then it would become free and open to public art. So I don't know. That's just an idea. Something just came to me. So something to maybe chat about another time.
Can I add 2 cents?
Please
as
do.
As a community elder kind of thing. Squamish can actually
You're too young for that title, but
So
anyway,
maybe
carry on.
70 next week, come on.
Still.
What I wanted to say was Squamish Can, when they started, had a movie series as well that they ran out of, and again, the licensing fees was an issue kind of thing. So I think it's a brilliant question, and I love the idea again of a virtual screen and moving and different kinds of places and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so just to thank you for the feedback, just to clarify what we've been doing is like we will have our own venues. In other words, we're creating a cinema, but when I say virtual, it's not moving about, it's not sort of here, there and everywhere. It's chosen venues. Instead of having them in one building, we're going to have them as a business. We'll be using different venues. At the moment, we have one venue, the common, which is my business, and this other space we just take on as another venue. And so then
But that may be scalable.
It's scalable worldwide, probably. No.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Not to give you an indication of what the idea is, but yes, it's possible.
Yeah, I don't want to give that away, but it is interesting, I think. Yeah.
City.
Just to offer a tidbit, it's, so to say, more affordable for licensing fees when a nonprofit requests it.
You're in a ball again.
You're an encyclopedia.
But it's interesting for me in the film industry. I've spent the last few months looking at licensing fees, and I'm dealing with Disney, Hollywood, and everybody from Disney distributors through to independent filmmakers. And the challenge I found, which is probably related to this conversation about artists and stuff like that, it's the reason I'm talking about Google Drive and bringing everything together, you can tell I'm a systems person, it's mind-blowing that there is no unified system. So if you've done the Squamish things and you've done it before and you've probably come across it, if you want to put a film on, it's extraordinarily complex, which is a bit ridiculous. And it's like the distributors and
It's one of I could go down that road, but basically you can see that impact on Canadian filmmaking all the time.
anyway. So
Good.
It's very cool.
Yeah, Peter, thanks for sharing that, and Devon, thanks for nudging. So just check in one more time. Is there anything else? Roundtable? We're good. Motion to close. Moved by Catherine, seconded by Meg. All those in favor? I said close, but I meant terminate.